Previously on Kenshi, Tale of the Blade. While drinking in Dead Cat, a stranger approached our wanderer. His name was Horse, and he had knowledge of a tower protected by a great guardian. The promise of a good fight had Cat's attention, and so the trio set off, seeking a tower far to the west, sitting on an isle offshore, and with birds circling overhead. The tower matched every description that Horse provided, yet within its halls, Cat found no great guardian, only the mechanical spiders that guarded many other rooms of its like. There was one abnormality though. A skeleton, whose mind was lost to time, still stood as a guardian, hardly the beast that Horse spoke of. The fighters still put up, well, a fight. The one part of Horse's tale that rang true more than any other was the word of treasure. To Cat, the objects were useless, but to Horse, this hoard was enough for him to buy his own city. AI cores, lost to time, now in the hands of Horse. And it is with that we begin again. The wanderer, Horse, had done rather well for himself. Leading Cat to the tower had led to him acquiring a number of AI cores, an item that is quite possibly the most valued and sought after in all the continent. AI cores could win wars, and while they were light, they were cumbersome devices. Horse would have to return with the team, and with Cat swearing that knowledge of the tower would remain secret, he would return within the coming month to seize his prize. Cat, on the other hand, he'd want to make sure he was rested and ready. Having picked up a number of wounds inside, the dynamic duo that was Cat and Dog didn't have a set destination in mind, but they wouldn't remain here on the western coast. They would travel back to the east, through the Cannibal Plains once again, to the second peninsula past the northern coast, an area known as Darkfinger. Cat had no real knowledge of what to expect, yet much of the coast they had walked was familiar to him now. The first task would be leaving the Iron Trail and this island behind. Oh, and getting food. They'd already eaten through most of their supplies, and with Horse taking his share, there wasn't much left. A few of the island's guardians tried to put up a fight, but it wouldn't be much of one. Even weighed down, Cat was still more than a match, especially with Dog at his side. Really, fighting these things, weighed down as he was exactly what he wanted to be doing. It was the only way now that he would get stronger and faster. Regular fighting just wouldn't cut it. With the fall of night, they had returned to land, yet this was a land of scrap and decaying steel, no food in sight. Yet come dawn, their prayers were answered. Entering the Leviathan coast, a massive herd of garu awaited them. Cat did his best to lure just one away, yet garu are a herd animal. They fight to protect their own, and Cat would have quite the fight on his hands. Choosing to remain weighed down would put him in additional danger, but it would also allow him to hone his defense. Cat had instructed Dog to wait nearby. This was a fight for him and him alone. The smell of blood was thick in the air. Why would they not just run? He thought, blade swinging in hand. Yet there was no reasoning to be had here. They were lost to the frenzy of the fight, as was Cat. And it would seem that Cat wasn't fighting this fight alone after all. A wild pack of bone dogs had smelt blood on the air and wanted a piece of the garu too. Yet this herd was far too fierce for them. And finally, after close to an hour later, the battle was done. The last of the garu choosing to flee. And work he would, slowly cooking and preserving all the meat he could. The lives spilled would not go to waste. Both Cat and Dog would be fed for many moons to follow. Finally, they were ready to move on as the rains washed the blood away. Onwards they would go. Past the great beasts they roamed once again. Masters of the Leviathan coast, they knew to keep their eyes to the horizon, ever watchful for the long necks of beak things. Leaving behind a messy tangle of necks, they would not be slowed long. With yet another night falling, and the rain falling with it, cat and dog sought out shelter, and in so doing, found the capital of the cannibals. Or at least what was left of it. The smell of blood and charred flesh was thick on the wind. The town was full of tech hunters. No doubt one of their own was taken by the devious fiends, and now their capital is no more. It was a grim location to seek out shelter, yet some of the buildings still stood. And with tech hunters patrolling the streets, the town should be safe for the evening, especially if the two just kept to themselves. It is strange though. The buildings that still stand here, they resemble many others that cat and dog have seen on their journeys. So perhaps once upon a time, these people were not so different. Hunger, starvation, and desperation all drove them to become what they are. They were beasts in the hearts of the living. Cat knew that all too well. The smell here in the center was overpowering. Staying this far into the town would not do. An intact shack, that would do them better. They could make out the fallen, crumpled form of what might have been the past owner. And that owner was still alive, staring at Cat with blade in hand. The figure waited. The armor seemed familiar. The Holy Nation. Whoever this figure was, they were of importance. Cat didn't know it, but this individual was the cannibal Grand Wizard of the Grand Wizard's horde, their leader, their figurehead, and one that had quite the figure on their head. A bounty rivaling that of Cat. Yet to Cat, they were just another enemy. The fight would be far from fair. The Grand Wizard's armor resilient, yet Cat's blade struck true. Still alive, Cat would leave the Grand Wizard for the tech hunters to decide his fate. They'd been fighting this fight far longer than Cat, and no doubt had far more claim to this warlord's life. Yet again, to Cat, he was no more than an obstacle. But oh, what wealth he could earn, handing the wizard over to the Holy Nation, the United Cities, or even the Sheik. All of them have a claim on the wizard. Yet the same can be same for Cat. He hasn't upset the Sheik yet, but that blade on his back carries an awful price tag for both the Holy Nation and the United Cities. But enough talk of histories. Cat sought rest, and he'd find that comfort inside the shack. That wasn't all. There were belongings, many belongings, collected over countless years and from innumerous victims, not unlike the other city that fought through. Inside one of the chests, he came upon 4 journals. Not knowing how to read, he flipped through them with the hope that one of the tech hunters might be able to enlighten him. He managed to find one of them, a Sheik, patrolling the streets. Her name was Streak. She was part of a band of 10 tech hunters that had came to this village in search of their kin. They were too late, yet the culprits had felt their revenge. Cat agreed to help the band keep watch until the morning, and in return, Streak would have one of her companions, String, read to Cat the journals that were found. They were all written from a first-person perspective. 4 journals, following a captive's experience here at the capital. It began. I felt the eerie sensation that we were being watched. And we were. They came into our camp during the night, slaughtered our gars, and dragged the rest of us to their village. The sour smell of rot was rank, knocked me back even more than the sight of those effigies. I've numbed to it now. They separated us into blood-stained cages and bandaged the worst of our injuries. First, they beat us, then tend to us. So it seems. Light. What do they want from us? The second begins on the fourth day. They dragged Uncle Sen away yesterday morning, cut a piece of him away, as if he were some thing. An object to be harvested. They stemmed the worst of his bleeding. But with his gaping wound, I don't know how long he'll last. Fuck. We need to get out of here. Fast. Day 8. Uncle passed away last night. It was a death I'd wish on no man. Hacked away, piece by piece, until he was just a twitching stump of a person. They finished what was left of him for breakfast. And us, we retched on the leftovers, fattening up the food caches. Frighteningly logical thinkers. There are 4 of us left. The third journal begins on day 13. Their eyes, they don't look like human eyes. No, they look like whirlpools, like death, black. Day 17. Mother passed last night. Didn't make it as long as the other 2. Day 20. Death visited in the night. A kokrak. Paru. Remember these words, she says, and then melted away again. Paru. Day 21. Baste the meats to keep it soft. Meat. Me at. The fourth journal. Day 26. Little brother. So far away. Can't reach him. Can't hear him. Sometimes I talk to myself. Sometimes to death. I miss the voice of humanity. Day 27. Managed to pocket some wire during my trip to the chopping block. Everyone else might be gone, but they won't touch a hair on little brother's head. Now's time to get you out of here, Reuben. And there, the journal ends. We know not whether the captive lived or fell like all the rest, but the slaughter the cat and the tech hunters have enacted here and other cities like it seems all the more justified now. The hunters fall silent. No one talks again, not until the sun rises. By the time the sun finally touches the valley, the Grand Wizard is dead. And it was finally time to leave, to carry on. Your cat and dog would not be doing so alone. Cat and the tick hunters' paths had aligned. They all sought passage through the Cannibal Plains to the hidden forest, a place that both cat and dog had traversed. Many hands would indeed make light work. There was no doubt at this stage that cat could defend himself, yet this way he stood a chance to defend others. And as long as their eyes didn't linger on the blade for too long, they'd get along just fine. In their travels, they came upon the shell of yet another village, yet more ruins belonging to the cannibals. Why was it that their civilization had failed, had fallen into such disarray, when others still held on to some form of sanity? It was a riddle that Cat just couldn't solve. Their path through the plains this time had led them through areas that, as until yet, they hadn't seen. That was all to change, however. Cat, scouting further ahead of the others, was the first to find the cannibals. In absolutely massive numbers. Like ants, they scurried along the dry canyon floor. A floor that would not remain dry for long. Streak fought alongside Cat, both well aware that failure here was not an option. One of the tech hunters was already in the grasp of the cannibals. They could not afford to fail. Not far away, Dog fights alongside a Shek by the name of Slick, a giant with a soft spot for the bone dog. He was holding his own. Inu, one of the hunters, had been taken prisoner. Cat was quick to intervene, and just like that, the worst of it was over. Yet some still remained, in much smaller numbers. The main force of the cannibals here, thankfully, had been felled. It was time to regroup. Cat was quick to see to Inu's wounds, while Streak saw to Cat's. With the troop now properly bandaged up, they'd be able to continue on. Slick had made off for the center of the town, with Inu following close behind. She had a bone to pick with those that remained. Out of the 8 tech hunters that Cat had accompanied from the camp, only 4 remained before they left, choosing other paths. A path perhaps that involved less blood. Perhaps they were wise. Only Streak, Slick, Inu, and Dirt remained. Or maybe not. One of the original 8 emerges from the darkness. Slowline. The others were making for a location further away, high up in the mountains. A location that Cat might be able to offload some of the odds and ends he has been collecting. A location, to be said, at the end of the world. An interesting prospect, and it's one that I believe Cat will be taking. But that, Legionnaires, is all for the next. As would you look at that, yet another has found us here. Now, pulling back the curtain for a moment here at the end of today's episode, the tech hunters that are currently accompanying Cat are doing so in the capacity of mercenaries, meaning they're not fully fledged companions. Which also means that we will have surprises like this, where some of them will go and come back again. And as this is only a temporary connection that Cat is making with these people, Cat for now chooses to travel with these people. And as long as that doesn't change, everything should be fine. But trouble, as ever, has a way of tracking down our lad. And speaking of Cat, it has been a while since we've had a look at his stats. Right now, he's sitting at a strength of 72, a toughness of 88, a dexterity of 65, and a perception of 4. At this stage of the game, Cat's stats are going to be much more difficult to increase. Slowly but surely, with every fight he fights, his melee attack and defense will be getting higher, as will his skill with katanas. Yet he's going to need to fight increasingly more difficult fights to be able to get those skills higher. As ever, he does seek that good fight, and for him to get stronger, he's gonna need to find it. Maybe he'll be able to find it while traveling alongside these hunters. But yes, for now, we have reached the end of our tale this day, and I ask you all, if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a comment or a like to let me know if you enjoyed the show. As for now, I have been Rycon. You have all been awesome, and until next time, stay tuned.